In the world of British entrepreneurship, few stories feel as dramatic as the moment a multi-million-pound empire collapses almost overnight. This is the story often whispered as the £10 million crash that wiped out Sarah Willingham. A story of ambition, confidence, timing, and a brutal lesson in how quickly momentum can turn into freefall. At her peak, Sarah Willingham was celebrated as a self-made success. She was a sharp negotiator, a fearless risk-taker, and a public face of modern British business culture. Investors admired her decisiveness. Media praised her grit. Customers filled her venues, believing they were buying into something modern and unstoppable. But then the numbers stopped adding up. Suppliers went unpaid. Expansion plans froze. And behind the scenes, a debt mountain estimated at over £10 million began crushing everything underneath it. Now you might be thinking, how does someone with experience, credibility, and access to capital end up here? The answer is not one mistake, but a chain of decisions, each logical on its own yet disastrous together. But here is where it gets interesting. This is not just a story of failure. It is a story about scale, ego, market timing, and the hidden fragility of hospitality businesses when growth outruns reality. Sarah Willingham did not come from inherited wealth or corporate privilege. Her early career was built in the trenches of retail and hospitality. She learned operations, customer psychology, and cash flow long before she became a public figure. These skills helped her spot opportunities others ignored. Her breakthrough came when she entered the restaurant and casual dining space with concepts aimed at urban professionals. Her concepts were stylish, accessible, and built for volume. The model was simple in theory, with high-foot traffic locations, efficient menus, and strong branding. Early locations performed well, revenues climbed quickly, confidence followed. Banks were willing to lend, private investors wanted exposure, landlords offered prime sites. In the eyes of the market, she was a proven operator who could scale, and scale she did. Within a few years, multiple locations were operating across major UK cities. Headcount grew, marketing budgets expanded, fixed costs rose, but so did turnover. On paper, the business looked healthy. In interviews, Sarah spoke about ambition, resilience, and thinking bigger than fear. This was the rise. Fast, energizing, and intoxicating. The peak is often the most dangerous moment in any business story because success creates its own blind spots. By the time the company reached national recognition, it was no longer a startup. It was a complex machine. Rent obligations ran into millions per year. Staff costs ballooned. Supply chains stretched across regions. Small inefficiencies that once barely mattered now had massive financial consequences. Yet expansion continued. New sites were launched with heavy upfront investment. Fit-outs, staffing, and marketing required large capital injections before a single meal was sold. These were funded through a mix of operating cash, loans, and investor money. At the top, everything still looked fine. Media appearances reinforced confidence. Growth charts moved upward. The brand became closely tied to Sarah herself. Her reputation and the business became inseparable. But behind closed doors, margins were thinning. Rising rents in major cities squeezed profitability. Competition in casual dining intensified. Consumer tastes shifted toward cheaper delivery options and home dining. Energy costs increased. Wages rose. The business was still growing, but it was growing weaker. The first cracks rarely make headlines. They appear as late payments, renegotiated terms, and emergency credit lines. For Sarah Willingham's company, these cracks began with cash flow stress. Revenue looked strong, but cash was constantly tight. Why? Because growth consumed money faster than it generated it. Each new location increased risk. Each lease locked the company into long-term obligations. Debt quietly accumulated. Suppliers extended credit, hoping volume would compensate. Banks refinanced loans, pushing repayments further into the future. This created the illusion of stability while increasing total exposure. Now you might be thinking, why not slow down? Why not close underperforming sites? The problem was timing. Closing sites meant writing off massive investments and triggering lease penalties. Staying open meant losing money slowly. It was a trap. At the same time, Sarah's public profile made retreat psychologically difficult. Admitting problems could spook investors and landlords. Confidence became part of the business model. And then external pressure arrived. Economic uncertainty reduced discretionary spending. Casual dining chains across the UK began reporting losses. Well-known brands entered administration. The market was turning. The cracks widened. Please like and subscribe. We want to hit 5,000 subscribers. Now let's move on with the video. The fall was not a single event. It was a sequence of financial realities colliding at once. Loan repayments became unmanageable. Rent arrears accumulated. Tax obligations loomed. When creditors lose confidence, the system collapses quickly. Attempts were made to restructure. Negotiations with landlords sought rent reductions. Investors were approached for emergency funding, but the numbers were now too large. The debt reportedly exceeded £10 million. Confidence evaporated. Once one creditor pushed, others followed. Cash flow dried up. Staff faced uncertainty. Customers noticed service quality slipping. The brand that once symbolized growth now signaled distress. Administration became inevitable. When the business finally collapsed, it sent shockwaves through the industry. Headlines focused on the scale of the debt and the speed of the downfall. Critics asked how such experience could still end in failure. But wait, there is more to this story. After the collapse, public narratives often oversimplify. Success becomes arrogance. Failure becomes incompetence. Reality is more complex. Sarah Willingham did not disappear. She faced the consequences publicly and privately. Reputational damage was real. Financial loss was severe, but the knowledge remained. In later interviews, she spoke openly about the pressures of scale and the emotional toll of collapse. She acknowledged mistakes in expansion pacing and cost control. She highlighted how hospitality margins are far thinner than outsiders realize. Employees moved on. Creditors absorbed losses. The brand faded, but the lessons lingered. For the UK startup scene, this collapse became a cautionary tale. Growth without resilience is fragile. Debt magnifies both success and failure. And personal branding can trap leaders into projecting strength when vulnerability is needed most. So what really caused the £10 million crash that wiped out Sarah Willingham's business? It was not a lack of intelligence. It was not laziness. And it was not even poor ideas. It was the dangerous combination of rapid expansion, high fixed costs, and an unforgiving market shift. The hospitality industry punishes overconfidence. Unlike software or media, restaurants cannot scale cheaply. Every new location adds rent, staff, utilities, and risk. When consumer demand dips, there is little room to maneuver. Sarah's story reveals a deeper truth about modern entrepreneurship. Visibility can distort decision-making. When a founder becomes a symbol, it becomes harder to slow down, to admit mistakes, or to shrink in order to survive. But here is the final twist. Failure did not erase Sarah Willingham's value as an entrepreneur. In many ways, it refined that value. Experience earned through loss is often more durable than experience earned through success. The £10 million crash was devastating, but it was also instructive. For viewers building businesses today, this story offers a powerful takeaway. Growth should never outpace control. Debt should never replace discipline, and confidence should never silence caution. Because in business, the line between empire and collapse is thinner than it looks. Sometimes the most important success story begins after everything falls apart. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any suggestions about topics, please let us know in the comments. If you liked this video, please hit the subscribe button. We'll see you tomorrow.